Like to conduct this, Madam Clerk.
Good morning. I'm so excited. You're my first. I would like for the board members that need to be sworn in just to stand. I will ask you to raise your right hand, and then please just repeat after me. And when I say state your name, you guys will do it at the same time, and then we'll just go slowly and get through this. So I'm excited. Are you ready? This is your official oath. I state your name.
I, Patrice Perkins Hooker,
Do swear or affirm
do swear or affirm
that I will, as a member
that I will, as a member
of the Board of Elections,
of a Board of Elections,
duly attend all ensuing primaries and elections
duly attend all ensuing primaries and elections
during the continuance thereof,
during the continuance thereof,
that I will, to the best of my ability,
that I will, to the best of my ability,
prevent any fraud,
prevent any fraud,
deceit, or abuse in carrying on the same,
deceit, or abuse in carrying on the same,
and that I will make a true and perfect return
that I will make a true and perfect return
of such primaries
of such primaries
and elections,
and elections,
and that I will at all times
and I will at all times
truly, impartially, and faithfully
truly, impartially, and faithfully
perform my duties in accordance with Georgia laws,
perform my duties in accordance with Georgia law,
to the best of my judgment and ability.
to the best of my judgment and ability.
I do further solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money
that I am not the holder of any unaccounted for public money
due to this state
due to this state
or any political subdivision or authority thereof,
or any political subdivision or authority thereof,
that I am not the holder of any office or trust
that I am not the holder of any office or trust
under the government of the United States
under the government of the United States
or any other state or any foreign state,
or any other state or foreign state,
which I am prohibited from holding by the laws of the state of Georgia,
which I am prohibited from holding by the laws of the state of Georgia,
and that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office
and that I am otherwise qualified to hold said office
according to the Constitution of the United States
according to the Constitution of the United States
and the laws of Georgia,
and laws of Georgia,
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Yay! Okay, that was your first oath, the long one. When we're done, I'll need you to just sign everything and we'll take it and get it processed and send it to the Secretary of State. Please raise your right hand for your loyalty oath. I state your name,
I, Patrice Perkins Hooker,
a citizen of Fulton County, Georgia,
a citizen of Fulton County, Georgia,
and being an employee of Fulton County
and being an employee of Fulton County,
and the recipient of public funds for services rendered,
and the recipient of public funds for services rendered,
as such employee,
as such employee,
do hereby solemnly swear and affirm
do hereby solemnly swear and affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Georgia.
and the Constitution of the state of Georgia,
So help me God.
so help me God.
It's official.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for coming over and doing that. We appreciate that.
Thank you. I'll need for you to go ahead and sign that.
Okay, we're going to take a second to, each of us has our oaths inside this little lovely folder. And we'll put them back in here. And they have to be signed off on by the clerk. Oh, okay. You're going to take everything in the folder? Envelope. Okay, thank you.
Signing it was easier than getting it in. Nice
Thank
meeting
you.
you.
All right, are we ready to proceed? Our clerk for this day. All right, there are some rules that are published on our agenda that I just want to make certain that we are clear about, and that cell phones are to be turned off during the meeting, and that means everybody, staff as well as attendees. The citizens are allowed to voice requests, concerns, opinions, et cetera, during the communications and public response portion of the meeting of the Board of Registration and Elections. Before speaking, each participant must obtain a speaker's card from Ms. Mariska Bodson. I'm sorry, I don't want to mispronounce your name. Fill out the card and return it to Ms. Bodson prior to the beginning of the meeting. Speakers will be granted up to 2 minutes each for a total of 60 minutes per meeting. Now, I have been notified by our clerk that there have been no speaker's cards submitted for this meeting. So we're going to proceed with approval of the agenda. I have, before we do the actual vote, I have one amendment to the agenda to add as an item number 8 in new business. We have to, during the last State Election Board meeting, the chairman of that board requested that Fulton County participate with other counties in developing a checklist for the operations of registration and election departments throughout the state, not focusing on us. But he gave an analogy of it being similar to a peer review that was done on the federal government level of his department in the, I guess it was the Attorney General's office. So we agreed to, I agreed to present it to you all today to see if you all would approve Fulton County being one of the counties that would participate in that task force to help develop that audit checklist. So I need to add, permission to add that as an item number 8.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we add, amend the agenda to include
Participation.
thank you, because I was trying to figure out the words. Participation in a statewide peer review for
The state elections.
the state elections board.
Second?
Okay, so all in favor of the addition, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Mr. Wingate, I know you're there because I saw you earlier, so I need to get the screen with his image on.
We're having some technical difficulties. Mr. Wingo dropped off, so I'm trying to get him back in.
All right, okay, so all of the votes here would be enough to carry it, and it's a majority, so it's unanimous to add that to the agenda. Any other additions to the agenda? My staff or anyone else? All right, with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Yeah.
Welcome to Zoom. Please press pound, then enter your meeting ID, followed by the pound sign again.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as amended. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Is that an aye? Approving the agenda as amended?
Well, then we can't approve it yet.
Well, then I would, if you have another.
The reason why.
Okay, hold on just a second.
You are in the meeting now.
I want to wait until everything is such that the public can actually hear us who are not here, and I know this is a problem. Hello, Mr. Wingate, we know you're here, but you're echoing. Crazy.
Hello.
There you are.
I have got a heck of a noise in this.
Come on, Mr. Wingate.
Okay.
Can you hear us now, Mr. Wingo?
We can see you now and
I
hear
can hear
you,
you.
but we have a lot of echo going on.
A lot of echo. I just lost it again.
Okay, well, we're here. Can you hear us now?
I can hear, yes.
Okay. We were in the midst of doing the motion to approve the agenda, and Mr. Johnson reminded us that we needed to add a discussion on a matter so it won't be coming up to us for a vote without, publicly at least acknowledging the basis for it. And so he's going to make a motion to add a discussion on as to item number 9.
All right. Okay.
Motion is made, seconded.
A motion made and seconded to approve the agenda as amended without any further amendments. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right, that's unanimous. Whew. The next item on the agenda would be the communications and public comment. Do we have any other communication that you want to read?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, and we have no public comment cards. All right, I had some remarks I wanted to start off this appointment session with. I wanted to welcome all of the new members to the 2023-2025 Board of Registration and Elections. I want to thank the prior board members for all of the work that they did to shepherd the department through the 2021 and 2023 elections and registration period, and for satisfactorily completing the performance review of our operations. We were the first county to undergo one of those performance reviews, and it came out very well. I also want to personally acknowledge my thanks to Mr. Wingate for his willingness to stay in compliance with our rules and bylaws, to stay around until his successor is appointed or decided upon by the Board of Commissioners. I appreciate that, Mr. Wingate, especially with your health challenges, but we are willing to work with you if you are willing to work with us so we can make certain that our roles and duties are fulfilled. So thank you tremendously.
You're welcome, and I'll do what I can.
Okay. I want to thank the staff for all of the great work that they do to allow voters in Fulton County to register to vote and be provided the opportunity to vote, despite the eyes of the nation watching over them and people distributing misinformation on the work that they do. For those of you who don't know it, this department is only comprised of 42 full-time people who are professionals who have to train and supervise a staff of over 2,000 volunteers and temporary workers during an election cycle. They do a phenomenal job, and for that, as a resident of Fulton County and your chair now, I am grateful. This board was created by the Georgia General Assembly and the Fulton County Board of Commissioners to serve as the superintendent of elections, and we were granted the power to register voters and conduct absentee balloting process. This board has selected a director of the Department of Registration and Elections and delegated the responsibility of running the day-to-day operations of the department. She is the only person to whom the board members should direct comments, suggestions, ideas, or concerns. The board does not run the department. It sets policies and oversees the work of the director. We will continue to work with the Secretary of State's office and the State Election Board to make sure that anyone who is eligible to register to vote can do so, and that their votes are counted when cast. This is a big job, but I am sure that this new board will continue with the work that was done before and support our staff as they look for ways to improve our operations and address any concerns that may occasionally arise. I also want to acknowledge the fact that the board will be supported by the county attorney's office in its meetings, and those representatives are Senior County Supervising County Attorney David Lohman. He got promoted since he worked for me. And Assistant County Attorney, Senior County Attorney, wow, Chad Alexis. So, I couldn't even see that. But congratulations, both of you all, on the recent titles changes. But they are two individuals who I know have tremendous depth of experience in elections law, and we look forward to receiving their guidance and support and corrections as it may need to be as we go along with these processes. All right, we have been presented copies of minutes from all of the meetings prior to this, the regular meeting of June 8th, the executive session meeting of June 8th, the special meeting held June 13th, and the special meeting held on June 19th. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes as presented? Mr. Wingate? Okay. All right, you two are the only ones here at that time.
Move to approve the agenda, the minutes.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded to approve the minutes that are before the board for approval. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And we have 3 votes for this because neither Mr. Heaton or I were members of the board at the time, and that's sufficient to approve the minutes as they are. All right, our new business items are review of our bylaws. There have been some, mine says review of bylaws.
No, it's just a monthly operations, number 4.
Okay, I'm skipping over to number 6. Thank you very much. Number 5 is our monthly operations report, and it's going to be coordinated, the presentation of that's going to be coordinated by our director, Ms. Nadine Williams. Ms. Williams, you have the floor.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. On behalf of the Department of Registration and Elections, we want to say welcome aboard, and we look forward to working with all of you. We will start the monthly operations report on page 17 with the Deputy Director Projects.
Good morning, Board. For the month of June, we selected and onboarded 3 interns. 2 were assigned to the Information Systems Division, and the 3rd was assigned to the Voter Education and Outreach. These interns began June 21st. In reference to absentee by mail equipment replacement, we worked with county finance and have received the approval for funding to proceed with the procurement of that equipment, and we are on to the next step of working with purchasing to secure and procure that equipment. In cross-training, and local certification, the department underwent and completed department-wide cross-training from the week of June 26th through June 30th. All departmental staff received training in the areas of election day operations, absentee by mail processing, conducting logic and accuracy procedures, advanced voting operations, and registration duties and procedures. All staff is also continually to work towards the local certification. This concludes my report, and I'm open for any questions.
Any questions from any member of the board? Mr. Wingate, you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
On page 18, absentee.
Good morning, Board. In the month of June, absentee monitored all absentee requests, all outlets for absentee requests. We assisted voter registration with DDS applications. We continue to submit reef tickets for Jarvis. And we were involved, and we also trained for the department-wide cross-training session. And we also spoke with several vendors, Tatnall, Quadient, Fort Press Orange, and HB Solutions. And that will conclude absentee. Any questions?
No.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wingate. Anybody else have questions from board attendants? Okay.
Okay. On page 19, administration.
Good morning, board and citizens. For the month of June, under administration, we performed routine administrative functions such as processing requisition to establish purchase orders and submitted invoices for payment. We also conducted routine various HR functions such as processing of payroll, processing of requisition for recruitment and selection, and also to separate employees from the HR system. Under vacancies for the month of June, under registration officer, we onboarded employees June 21st. We have one position to onboard, and we are hoping to do that in the month of July or August. Administrator coordinator 1, employee was onboarded as well, June 21st. Executive assistant, we have conducted all reviews, and our selection is currently being processed in HR. For the month of June, elections equipment manager, interviews were conducted as well, and the selection has been submitted to HR. For registration chief, we have submitted a requisition for this, and we are now waiting for the register so that we can begin conducting interviews. In regards to intergovernmental agreements, all of the intergovernmental agreements were approved at the June 21st Board of Commissions meeting, and they are currently routing for execution. In regards to campaign contribution disclosure report, CCDR, all candidates were expected to file a report June 30th, and the deadline was July 10th. This concludes my report for June 2023. Thank you.
Any questions about the administration report? Mr. Wingate? I have a question. In the campaign disclosure report, were there any late filed or non-filed or any filed reports for this period?
I haven't completed that report as yet. I'm currently processing it.
Thank you.
On page 20, advanced voting.
Good morning, board. In the month of June, we have successfully completed the House District 68 runoff election with 378 voters that participated in that election. We also had an in-person roundtable meeting with the AV poll workers to assess the performance of the new cellular poll pad. Again, still great reviews from the voters. We are in process of planning for the municipal election, which began on October 16th to November 3rd. We are reviewing our past performance, and we also looking at our processes, and will produce updated training materials for this municipal election. Again, we are introducing the part-time shift staffing option, and we are planning for a mock election in the month of August to acclimate the public to the new cellular poll pads. So we are preparing for that, and I will send out a summary, details, let you know what the mock election will be entailed before the next BRE meeting. Thank you. This concludes the end of my report.
Any questions on the advanced voting? Is that right? Okay.
Good morning. Were there anything you learned about the new poll pads? I know you got good reviews from the voters who were there, but did the staff learn anything that's going to be helpful for November? Is it better, worse, et cetera?
It's better. They love it. It's more efficient. It's friendlier. So we're waiting for the municipal election to actually get a full blast of it. because we were so restricted to only House District 68. So with the mock election, it gives us an opportunity to actually see more what the system can do.
Did you get a note of how fast it cut down or how much it cut down processing time?
When we did it for the House District 68 election, and comparable to the runoff election, it was 1.5
Minutes?
minutes.
Okay. All right.
Before in the 68 was 3.5 minutes. So it's a difference, but it depends on the size of the ballot.
Okay.
So I love it.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any questions from anybody else on this report? Mr. Wingate, any questions? Okay, thank you.
No, thank you.
On page 21, elections.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. During the month of June, the Elections Division completed all tasks relating to the House District 68 special runoff election, and there are no concerns. All IGAs have been received and approved by the Board of Commissioners. The City of Milton did receive their leased equipment on June 30th. They received 30 privacy screens and 14 poll pads with printers. Also, the division worked on polling place changes for the November 2023 election, and these will be presented to the board for approval further on the agenda. This concludes the report for the election division. Thanks.
Any questions from anybody on the board? Yes, Mr. Johnson, oh, excuse me.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, thanks. I had one question. I'm playing catch up here. What is, it says all IGA have been received. What is IGA?
An internal governmental agreement.
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson?
So is Milton not using the, they're only using the printers?
The poll pad with
I mean, I'm
printers.
sorry, the privacy screens and the poll pads, that's all they're using?
That's it.
So they're doing their hand ballot,
Yes,
paper?
yes, they are.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Wingate, you have any questions?
No, I don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
For supplies and logistics, I would like to introduce our new, newly hired supplies and logistics manager, Corey Henson. He comes with us with years of elections experience and information systems experience, and we're excited to have him on board, and he'll present the supplies and logistics report today.
Welcome, Mr. Henson.
Thank you. Dear Madam Chairwoman and members of the board, for the June supplies and logistics report, we completed all support for the HD 68 special election, including retrieving all the voting equipment and supply items from all the polling locations. The staff also assisted with the registration division in searching for several VR applications while actively preparing for the department move. We did that by palletizing and organizing both the EPC and Philip Lee warehouse. And finally, we have the racking from the EPC warehouse has been installed in the new Election Central warehouse and is ready for use. That concludes my report, and if you have any questions.
Any questions from any member of the board? Ms. Crawford?
Thank you. Nice to see you, Corey, since the last time I saw you. Thank you so much. On the move, so the move's going to be happening out of the EPC Center between June 18th and 20th, and the Philip Lee is 10 to 17. So they're working you'll have everything moved by the 20th. Is that how I'm reading this?
For the move of all the equipment, we are actually completed moving the Phillips Lee warehouse. It completed today, if that's correct. So all of the carriers have been moved to the elections hub at this time.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Thank you. See you.
Mr. Wingate, do you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you.
I did want to publicly thank the Fulton County manager as well as his staff for all of the support they provided to our staff to help coordinate the supplies, logistics, the move, the funding for all of this being put into place. And so although we are an entity created by Fulton County, We have not been at war with the county. The county has supported us all the way, and we are very appreciative of that support because this move and this location would not have been possible without the commitment by the county manager to try to make certain that elections was all housed in the same place and it was large enough to accommodate our needs.
On page 23, finance.
Good morning, Board and citizens of Fulton County. The finance report for the month of June is as follows. We are working on the draft of our 2024 elections and operating budget. We are meeting with the elections management team to construct our 2024 budgets. Our operating and elections 2024 budget is due into the Finance Department by August 31st, 2023. We have completed and submitted our capital asset budget for 2024, which was submitted to Finance as required June 30th, 2023, where we requested the purchase of vehicles to facilitate the presidential election for 2024, which would decrease the cost of the rental vehicles if approved by the county. Also, we are updating our 2023 elections budget information and adhering to processing our vendor invoices that we're still receiving in for special election House District 68 that was conducted for May and the June runoff. We have received in cash receipts. In your report package, you see as of June 30th, we had received from 3 cities, Fairburn, Union City, and South Fulton, but we've also in July received cash receipts from Mountain Park and the city of Roswell for their municipal election for November 2023. So as of this report, just with the 3 cities, we had received in $622,000. As of yesterday, with the other 2 cities, we have now received in $1.2 million. Also in your report there, you see the approved budgets that we are operating under for 2023. We also are working right now to go through and meet with the temp agencies to interview them for the temp needs that we have for the fall election. So we are working on that right now as well. So that concludes the finance report.
Any questions from members of the board? Mr. Wingate, any questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you. Thank you.
I have a request, Madam Director. I would like to make certain that the board is given a summary of the budget before it's submitted by August, so that we can review what the current budget is, the proposed budget, and an explanation for the variances. We might have some suggestions on ways to add, or the needs to add additional resources, but at least by allowing us to have that, I guess, is it too much to ask that we get it by August the 1st? That gives a couple of weeks just to see what you've got, or is that too quickly?
All right, we will make sure you get it by August the 1st.
But I'm trying to work with you, so if it needs to be August the 10th, let me know. I just wanted it before it goes in on the 31st. I'm willing to work with you. I'm a CPA at heart too. I got it.
I mean, we may need, realistically with the move, because we're moving in July, so realistically, that's why I was asking Nadine that question. We may need more time than
Okay.
that.
But can we get it by August the 10th?
Okay, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, on page 24, information systems.
Good morning again to members of the board. In the month of June, the information systems staff conducted successful logic and accuracy testing on all voting machines, while also providing technical support during advanced voting and on election day. Also, we completed successful tabulation of all results that were also reported. In terms of the election up move, the information system staff has been actively staging and organizing all voting equipments. All equipments were scanned, loaded onto our trucks, and were delivered and also tracked, being loaded into the new election hub. This process was successful as everything is currently staged, and also I could confirm that all items and all equipments were moved from our storage warehouse, So that concludes the moving of all information system equipment, and it was successful. And this concludes the report for information systems. Any questions?
Any questions from any member of the board? Mr. Wingate, any questions?
No, no, ma'am.
On page 25, registration.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Fulton County public. The monthly report provides a summary of the Registration Division's activities for the month of June 2023. I must start with an apology and a correction to the voter registration applications received. The number should be 2,039. Active voters, 764,733. Inactive voters, 102,191, for a total of 866,924 voters on our registry. Total applications to be processed, 31,844. New registrations to Fulton County, 320. Transfers to Fulton County, 8,272. Transfers from Fulton County, 195. Removals, which are canceled voters, 363. Our front office operations for the month of June total 103 customers serviced at all of our 3 locations. Any questions?
Madam Chairwoman, oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on just a second.
Oh, forgive me.
Any questions from the members of the board? Ms. Egan?
I'm missing page 25 in the deck. If I could get that sent to me, I would appreciate it. Thanks.
We'll take care of that right now. Any other questions while we let him look at that page? Okay, Mr. Johnson.
Can you remind me, we haven't had felon removals, and I can't remember why. Does anyone? Because we used to have it every month where it was, you remember, it was a certain number of felons to be removed, but I haven't seen that in a while, and I just want to make sure I remember why.
I'm new, so I don't know why you haven't had them, but going forward, as we process the felons and send them their letters to have a hearing, they can request a hearing, but you will have a list of the felons that we are preparing to remove if they don't request a hearing. And that hearing, of course, would come before you for them to show proof why they should not be removed from the registry. But for prior to now, I have no answer for you, but I will, that will be a question and that I will respond to at a later date. Either send an email to the board or find out an answer for you for
just
the
find out if
future
the
meeting.
process has changed, because we used to have to vote on whether or not they were removed, but something on this just reminded me that we haven't seen it in a while. So does that, and also can you let me know if anyone has been removed through that process?
I do believe the process is behind, but I will get an answer for you. And
Okay.
going forward, you will see those lists.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from members of the board? Okay.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I've got a question, if you will, please.
Yes, please proceed.
We did, the board and the BOC, and I believe the county manager, if I'm looking at this correctly, received a report from Ms. Williams, which is, a very, again, thank you very much, Ms. Williams, for this report. What it does is it gives a level of detail about what has transpired with regards to the numerous challenges that the county has received over the last several months. And it gives a grid layout of the research and work that was done in conjunction with Blue Raster. Apparently, I don't know whether this has been published or not, but largely those in question were found to be valid by large numbers, by the way. My question is there a file that's producible to whom may inquire, whether it be government official, private citizen, or otherwise, that can in fact be sent or be given access to a file that shows exactly which of these addresses, if you will, that either number one, were validated to be correct, or number two, validated to not be found, and therefore is, according to this, letters being sent to that particular voter for action on their part. My question is, if this was ever to be audited, questioned by any citizen or government official, do we have the information behind that that shows exactly which addresses were found to be valid, and conversely, those found to be invalid?
Yes, we do. There is a log for all the categories that were on that report to show, and we have a log of each address and what the results were for each of those addresses. So we do have that if somebody were to inquire.
Okay, all right. Now, thank you, Ms. Williams. So it's clear, if an individual or a government agency did request that information, is there a fee for that?
It would be a fee if it requires more time than just hitting a button, because that's what the law requires.
Okay, okay. Yeah, just so it's clear, if if it even ever comes up, it's just when I'm looking at this, somebody like me, as most of you well know, I just like to be able to, if I see a number, I'd like to be able to get to the data behind that. So as long as that's available, I think that's very good. And thank you very much for all that hard work.
Any other questions? I have a question. There is a total of applications to be processed of 31,844. Can you just let the public know, and me, how long it takes to process that many applications with your team of, what do you have, 4 people?
We finally have.
You finally have what?
We finally have a staff of 11 to start processing those. This is made up mostly of our DDS, and thanks to the absentee division, they have been continuously assisting us with processing DDS, but probably 20,000 of this, they're the DDS. Once we get everyone trained and able to process, I believe we will have this cleared up by the end of August.
Okay. Now, one of the things I want to kind of lessons learned along the way remind you of is that the public doesn't understand the initial. So Department of Driver Services data is being inputted into our system, and it comes over with the information that was reflected on a person's application for a driver's license. However, we have learned from our previous year that these addresses are not actually accurately reflected according to our GIS system, and they have the potential for creating conflicts between those two systems when we have challenges based upon omission of quadrants, utilization of co versus court and circle and all of those differentiations. So what are we doing this time to be proactive with regard to researching, confirming the accuracy of the information that the state is sending to us, so that we don't get jammed down the road with having information in our system that is not correct with the actual address of the registrant?
Our system, the address does not populate into our voter registration system. An employee has to create that address. We correct it on the front end before. We don't create addresses in the voter registration system that's not correct. So we verify it against GIS, the mapping. We verify it if however we can before we add it as a valid address in the voter registration system.
Thank you, because that was the single largest source, was those inconsistencies. And I'm glad that under the new system with more people, you're able to do that. And so when we look at this report at the end of August, I guess our first meeting in September, I want to make certain that we have the column that says applications received, which you've got voter remaining to be processed. And hopefully that number will be under 1,000 or so, but, because you get them in every day. I know,
Every day.
Every day.
That is the goal.
But thank you for, Madam Director, for allocating resources and staff and increasing it so that we have 11 people versus 3 or 4 to deal with this tremendous workload.
May I also add that we are still going to work with our GIS department. Every 2 weeks, they will run a report from the system to validate addresses. We're just waiting now for the SOS to give us a link into Jarvis so that GIS can start pulling that report biweekly. So that will also double check addresses for us along the way.
That will help tremendously. Thank you very much. Any other questions from anybody else? All right, we can move on.
On page 26, voter education.
Good morning, board members and citizens. For the month of June, I have been continuously conducting deputy register trainings to get those folks who need to be recertified and people who are wanting to come on as deputy registers. We're beginning to reach out to the colleges and universities within the county to begin planning events so that we can make sure when the students are coming back, if those that need to be registered need to update their address, et cetera, that they will have that information. We've been in the midst of trying to schedule back-to-school events as we've been getting contacted by numerous organizations and getting requests from commissioners to do outreach for back-to-school events, and we're working on that. Our team has also been consistently working with the registration division to process DDS applications as well. We also participated in the cross-training of all the divisions, and I conducted deputy register training for all the new staff members. We are also planning the grand opening of the new elections hub that will take place next month, and we're handling all those RSVPs as well as we'll be conducting tours of the facility. And then we're also working with External Affairs Department to make sure we finalize all the collateral for the municipal elections. I did work with all of the cities where we will be conducting their elections, work with all the city clerks to make sure we had an accurate account for what races will be on the ballot for their cities. And so we've created a one-page handout that's going to be great for the public as well as just for staff to be able to reference, because depending on what city you're in, you would need to know if you even have an election, depending on your city or your district. And so we just wanted to make sure we had a handy document that people can use. And as always, we continue to reach out to different entities and organizations to see if there's a request for us to do outreach. And we have also started the process to begin 2024 planning as well. And I did leave off here, the intern in our department did start, and she's helping us with some various projects that will really assist in elevating the voter education and outreach for the county. And that concludes my report.
Any questions from any members of the board? Mr. Wingate?
No, ma'am.
I want to commend you all for doing an excellent job, and I want to state to the public at large, if you have an organization, an entity, a county, a city council, anything that wants to have education, training, forums, etc., we are amenable to doing that, reaching out to you from North County to South County, but we're not going to be held responsible for dots on a map that reflect what is an increase or a decrease or a modification of requests that are received. If you want them to come, let them come. We don't decline any requests unless they fall into a category that's prohibited by law. So we don't do bars, for example. However, we are not declining any requests for any voter applications, information, or voter education information to be disseminated anywhere. So if you see a dot scatter map, which we're not publicizing anymore, that shows more requests coming from South Fulton, that's because more requests came from South Fulton, not because of a deliberate effort on our part to circumvent short shifts or do anything any other part of the county. Just ask. Thank you very much for what you do, because you do a lot. For 75 miles, you're covering a tremendous ground.
Okay, that concludes our operations report.
There's a, okay.
Yep, oh, yes, you have.
Just one update. I would like to see the department head's name on their page when they're when you put these out. That'd be beneficial.
Okay, will do. You mean
you.
for each division?
Yes.
Okay, will do.
Thank you.
Who's actually making the report would be nice.
Okay, will do.
I know, that's what she said. There is information in our package about Jarvis updates that wasn't listed separately on the agenda, so I assumed it was part of your operations report. Do you have that information? You can kind of hit the highlights from us. It was a communication from Blake Evans, but we still want to make certain it's in the minutes. Reference in the minutes. It was pages 28 through 30 in our.
Okay, yes, so it's on page 28. So we receive updates from the SOS on the buzz. All counties do regarding what Jarvis updates have been implemented, any corrections or that have made to the system. So this is just a summary of that. It's pretty lengthy. I'm not sure if you want me to read this, but overall, they have made strides in getting some processes to work in reporting and better functioning in the system. And this is just a summary of all those findings.
And really what I wanted to know is, do you have a date that they suggested it was going to go live for full implementation?
No, it's currently active, it is in use, but they could continue to make updates almost weekly or daily if not on the system. But it is live, we are using it, all the counties are using it. It's just they just keep us updated on the updates that are made to the system.
Okay, the reason I'm asking that is because we just had a report from the registrar that said that we don't have access to Jarvis to deal with the linking into Jarvis to deal with the address check. So that's
Right.
the reason I assumed
Right,
it wasn't
so
live.
the system is live, but that particular link for GIS to be able to pull that report, the SOS is still working on that link.
Okay, so aspects of it.
Right, exactly.
Fully functional, okay. All right, thank you for that clarification. Now we're moving into new business. We had reviewed the bylaws, the previous board had reviewed the bylaws and presented at its last meeting a proposed red line draft of changes to the bylaws that they wanted this board to vote on. The changes are the change is in Article 3 meetings, and it basically deleted the time frame for the board to have a certification meeting after an election. So if you look in section 1, 2, 3, 4, the end of the third line has the phrase, and on a date and time following any such election and prior to the Secretary of State election certification deadline to certify the election results. The previous language said it had to be by that Saturday. That was not working very well, and the board, based on its experience, suggested this modification. They presented it at the last meeting, and we need to vote to amend the bylaws to make that change. There were no other changes proposed to my knowledge. Is that correct? That's correct. Okay, thank you for the two who were here. All right, do you have any questions, Mr. Nick? Okay. All right, any questions with regard to the amendment to the bylaws? Mr. Wingate? I know you were aware of it in the beginning. You're on mute. You're making wonderful comments, but we just can't hear them.
Hang on.
There
There, now can you hear me?
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Sorry about that. Yes, I was, and part of that obviously and aware and clearly understand, yes.
Okay, so
I make a motion to accept the change on the bylaws.
Second.
all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 All right, it is indicated that it's unanimously approved by the board. The amendments were unanimously approved. These the amended bylaws have to be submitted to the board of, I think it's the Secretary of State's office and probably the State Election Board, but we will get that signed off on and sent to them. We need to change the date because it was amended as of today's date rather than June, so it's the 12th of July. So if you can change that date, we can file this one officially. All right, the next item under new business is approval of polling place changes. We had to make some changes in the original precincts and locations for the elections, and Madam Director, could you please
Yes, ma'am.
summarize this?
Yeah, so we did a review of Election Day polling places. Due to the popularity of advanced voting, a lot of voters are voting advanced voting. So we looked at all of our Election Day sites to see which ones could possibly be merged. We looked at the voter turnout. We looked at the logistics in the area to see which ones were, would not impact the voter, to make sure they're still close to where the voters reside. So we did analysis of all those things. So we have 57 changes to present today. Some are due to facilities not being available, but the majority are mergers to be more cost-effective with elections and to streamline processes. And Mr. Ross will present those today.
Hold on, we're not going to go through 57 of them. What we are going to do is to make certain that that list of changes were presented to the public with the package, the information package to this board. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. They were advertised in a legal organ. We also we emailed it to all the city clerks. We sent it to the Board of Commissioners well in advance. If anybody had any input or concerns, they were able to review the maps and advise if there were any concerns with the location changes. But there is 57 total.
And there have not been any concerns, comments, objections? None of that has been received? I would like to entertain a motion from this board to approve all of the changes submitted by the staff in polling places, all 57 of them, as they have been provided to us.
Motion made.
And I'll second for discussion.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded, and now are there any discussions on any particular polling place changes that were in the 57? Mr. Johnson.
Mine will be more general than in particular, only because I know what happens when we make the vote and then the next day. I know you put it out there, it's in all the legal organs, and it goes to the clerks. But as soon as it's made public, that's when the conversation happens that we're quote-unquote closing polling precincts. And then it's also stated that we are doing some things that we're really not doing. So what I want to make certain of that most people understand, when these mergers happen, was staff looking at the distance changes to try to make sure that there was a relatively close distance or a distance from their original polling precinct area to the new polling precinct? So it's not, you don't go from I was going 2 miles to I'm going 15 miles.
No. So when we definitely looked at when we looked at a voting precinct, we base it off of where the voters reside to make sure it's still convenient to where they reside. So for the majority of them, it's probably a half a mile, if something of that nature, where the change is taking place. But we definitely look at that first to ensure that it's not going to be inconvenient for the voter.
Okay. And then additionally, we tried to make sure that when staff tries to make sure that during early voting that we have as many locations as possible and that our hours are sufficient so that people still have the ability to come and vote early. You get 3 weeks. Generally, we try to push for 21 days, correct?
So yes, we are trying to increase polling sites from 2024 up to 40 sites if possible. Again, advanced voting is growing in popularity, and we just want to make that very convenient for voters to take advantage of that process.
And are these changes pushing to be permanent or?
Permanent.
Permanent
Yes.
changes. Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions from any other members of the board?
I just want to say thank you for the work that went into this, going through all the maps. They really are more cohesive, it looks like, is the word I would use. The only one that I have a question on and has the most amount of miles located is the Aviation Community Cultural Center. That has 6.5 miles to the new location.
Right. So for that particular one, it was in it was a location that was an unincorporated Fulton versus the voters. We're moving the voters that are in South Fulton. So actually it's closer to their residence. It seems far, but they were driving too far to the Aviation. So they'll actually go to a closer location that's actually in their city.
Oh, good, okay, all right, thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Wingate?
No, I'm fine. It looked very good work. Thank you.
Okay, are any other questions with regard to the polling place changes? The information for the public is really detailed, includes maps, logistics, where things are located, and the precinct changes. There's a lot of detailed explanation that went with this package of information for these 57 changes. But,
And we
Mr.
will
Johnson.
send notifications to the voters affected by this, correct?
Yes, so, well, now that it has been approved, we will.
When
be-
it's approved,
Yeah, when it's approved, we will process precinct location, cards, and those will be mailed out to the voters.
Okay, I'll be looking for mine.
Are you in this area? Oh, very good. I like it when it impacts us, that way people know that we haven't singled anybody else out. It's impacting you too. Great, great.
I'm sorry, before we get off of this topic, under Milton and the cities that are running their own elections, you say see city redistricting spreadsheet. Do we have a redistricting spreadsheet for those three?
If it's not in the packet, I can email that to you today. So for the city of Milton, just to be clear, they have opted to change their municipal polling site. So we have to process that as a county to mail those out to voters. So their council approved to change to 2 locations for the city of Milton, and we'll have to mail that out. There are 2 location changes for the county that would not be effective until 2024 that are also on this list. Because we do mail that card out and it says the municipal and it'll say the county precinct, we'll go ahead and include the 2024 change for those 2 locations. So the voter gets 1 card with all the information at one time.
Okay, all right, thank you, I appreciate those.
It was actually very good to put on record. Milton requested us to change, and we're changing. Not that we did the other way around. All right, all in favor of the approval of changing 57 polling places, please say aye.
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 All right, it's unanimous. Right, the new item that we added to the agenda, which is approval of participation with the Secretary of State, Secretary of State Election Boards. We are living in an alphabet soup land, and I didn't want to go SEB, but the State Election Board. That project will probably help numerous counties try to understand what is expected, what they are looking for, what will help them gear up for an audit. And frankly, upon consultation with the director, we were very eager to get involved with it and to be a part of helping to basically focus and streamline what happens when you are looking at the performance of various counties and how they can improve internally before they're subjected to an external audit. So I would encourage you to move, that we go ahead and support this, and that it doesn't require any money. It does require probably staffed time with regard, especially to our executive director, to participate with this. And I promise I won't leave her hanging by herself, because I think it is important that this group have the input of the people who are overseeing the operations as well as the ones who are responsible for the day-to-day operations. So can I get a motion that we go ahead and let the SEB know that we have formally approved or consented to participation with this?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, and that is a unanimous approval. We will so send a communication to the SEB chair indicating the board's acceptance of their challenge. All right, I'm not aware, Mr. Attorney, do we have any reason to go into executive session?
We do not.
Okay. Okay, well, then we don't have, then we will not go into executive session. There is nothing to discuss. And since there is nothing else on the agenda, the meeting is adjourned at 11:06.
Motion to approve, motion to
Well,
adjourn.
Okay.
That's my only job.
Seconded.
Just from a parliamentarian point of view, if you get to the end of the agenda and you have nothing else to do, it automatically can adjourn.
I'm fine
But I'll
with
let you do the vote. All right, all in favor of adjourning the meeting? Raise your hand. Don't, Mr. Wingate, hi. All right, all
thank you.
opposed, say no. All right, we unanimously approved adjourning our meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.